The wrench slipped from my grease-stained fingers as my phone buzzed against the concrete floor of my garage. 3 in the morning, and I was still under the hood of Mrs. Patterson's ancient Honda, trying to make ends meet. The text was from a blocked number. "Your wife's laughing about you right now. Check her iPad." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I wiped my hands on my coveralls, heart hammering. Emily's iPad sat charging on the kitchen counter where she'd left it before her girls' weekend in Chicago. The screen lit up, showing a group chat called Wine and Wine. Sophie: "OMGM, does Jake actually believe you're at a spa?" Emily: "LOL, he's so clueless. Derek booked us the penthouse suite at the Ritz. Poor Jake's probably eating cereal for dinner again." Melissa: "I can't believe you're still married to that grease monkey. Derek's got a Porsche and a trust fund." Emily: "Not for much longer. Derek's lawyer says I can get half of everything, even the garage." My vision blurred. 22 years of marriage reduced to mockery in a group chat. I screenshot everything, my hands shaking with rage and betrayal. The garage felt smaller suddenly, suffocating. I'd built this business from nothing after my boxing career ended with a torn rotator cuff. Emily used to bring me coffee during late nights like this, back when she worked as a secretary instead of some hotshot advertising executive. I scrolled through more messages, each one a knife twist. Emily: "Derek says Jake's too stupid to figure it out. We've been together 6 months and he hasn't suspected anything." Sophie: "What about Alex? Won't your son be upset?" Emily: "Alex graduates college next month. He'll understand I deserve better than a failed boxer who smells like motor oil." Our son. They were discussing our son like he was just another obstacle to remove. I grabbed a beer from the mini fridge and sat on my workbench, staring at the evidence of my wife's betrayal. Derek Morrison, I knew that name. He'd brought his BMW in for service last year, some rich kid who'd inherited his daddy's real estate empire. Arrogant prick who'd complained about getting his shoes dirty in my establishment. The irony burned. Emily had met him when her agency landed his company's advertising account. She'd been working late more often, buying new clothes, suddenly interested in yoga classes and wine tastings. All those nights I'd worried she was stressed about work. She was planning my destruction. My phone buzzed again. Another blocked number. "She's not coming home Sunday. They're extending the trip. Thought you should know." Who was texting me? Someone who knew Emily's plans but wanted me to find out. Maybe one of her friends had a conscience after all. I walked through our house, my house, since I'd been paying the mortgage for 15 years while Emily climbed her corporate ladder. Family photos lined the hallway. Our wedding day, Alex's graduation from high school, vacations when we were actually happy, or when I thought we were happy. In our bedroom, Emily's closet was half empty. She'd taken her best clothes, the jewelry I'd saved up to buy her, even the perfume I'd given her last Christmas. This wasn't a spontaneous girls' trip. This was a planned escape. I opened her nightstand drawer and found a business card for a divorce attorney. The consultation was scheduled for next Tuesday, right after her return from Chicago. She'd been planning this for weeks, but the worst discovery was in her jewelry box, a diamond bracelet I'd never seen before, with a note, "For my beautiful M. Soon we won't have to hide." D. The rage that filled me was different from anything I'd felt in the boxing ring. This was cold, calculated fury. Emily thought she could humiliate me, steal my son's respect, and take half my business to fund her new life with some trust fund baby. She was wrong. I spent the rest of the night researching Derek Morrison. Social media made it easy. The guy posted everything online. His penthouse apartment, his collection of luxury cars, his recent trip to Napa Valley with a special someone, whose face was carefully cropped out of photos. But Derek had made mistakes. His Instagram showed him at the same restaurant Emily claimed she couldn't afford for our anniversary. His Facebook check-ins matched every one of Emily's mysterious work events over the past 6 months. By sunrise, I had a plan. Sunday morning arrived without Emily. She texted around noon, "Having such an amazing time. Extended the trip until Wednesday. The spa treatments here are incredible," I replied. "Miss you too, sweetheart." Let her think I was still the clueless husband. Meanwhile, I was learning everything about Derek Morrison's life. My friend Rob owned Murphy's Bar downtown, a cop hangout where information flowed as freely as the beer. Rob had been my trainer back when I was fighting professionally, and he'd become a private investigator after retiring from the force. "Jake, you look like hell," Rob said as I walked into the empty bar Monday morning. "What's eating you?" I showed him the screenshots from Emily's group chat. Rob whistled low, shaking his head. "Man, that's brutal, but you can't do anything stupid. You got a business to protect and your son to think about." "I'm not going to hurt anyone," I said, "but I'm not going to roll over and let them destroy me either." Rob poured 2 coffees and sat across from me. "What do you need?" "Information. Derek Morrison, I want to know everything about this guy. His business, his finances, his weaknesses." "That'll cost you." "I'll pay." Rob made some calls while I worked on a customer's transmission. By afternoon, he had a file on Derek that was thicker than most phone books. "Your wife's boyfriend is leveraged up to his eyeballs," Rob said. "Daddy's trust fund ran out last year, but Derek's been living like it didn't. He owes money to some very serious people." "What kind of people?" "The kind who break legs when payments are late. Word is, Derek's been using his real estate business to launder money for them. If that information got to the right authorities..." I studied the financial documents Rob had obtained through his contacts. Derek was house poor, car poor, and lifestyle poor. Everything was financed, leveraged, or borrowed against future earnings that weren't materializing. He's using Emily, I realized. Her steady income, her good credit rating. He's planning to marry her for financial stability. Looks that way. And once he's got access to half your business, the picture became clear. This wasn't just about Emily wanting a richer husband. Derek needed her money to stay afloat, and Emily was too blinded by his fake lifestyle to see she was being used. My phone rang. Alex, calling from college. "Dad? Mom's friend Sophie called me. She said you and Mom are having problems?" I stepped outside the bar. "What did Sophie tell you?" "That you've been acting weird, suspicious. She said Mom's worried about you." The manipulation was already starting. They were going to paint me as the unstable one, the jealous husband who couldn't handle his wife's success. "Alex, I need you to come home this weekend. There are some things we need to discuss." "Is everything okay?" "Just come home, son, please." After hanging up, I realized Emily's friends weren't just covering for her affair. They were actively working to isolate me. Sophie had probably called Alex to plant seeds of doubt about my mental state. Rob emerged from the bar with another folder. "I made some more calls. Derek's got a reputation around town. This isn't his first affair with a married woman." The folder contained photos and documents about Derek's previous relationships. 3 married women in the past 5 years, all of them financially stable, all of them divorced after brief affairs with Derek that ended when their money ran out. "He's a professional homewrecker," I said. "More like a professional con man. Look at this." Rob showed me bank records indicating Derek had received loans from each of his previous girlfriends, loans that were never repaid. The pattern was always the same: charm the wife, isolate her from her husband, promise a glamorous future together, then disappear once the divorce settlement was finalized and the money was transferred. Emily wasn't Derek's girlfriend. She was his next mark. But she was also actively participating in my destruction, mocking me to her friends, planning to take half my business. Whatever Derek's motives, Emily had made her choice. My phone buzzed with another text from the blocked number. "Derek's wife doesn't know about Emily. Interesting, right?" Derek was married. I stared at the message, my mind racing. Derek had a wife, which meant Emily was just another affair to him, not the great love story she thought she was living. I texted back, "Who is this?" No response. But within an hour, I had Derek's wife's name and address. Margaret Morrison, married to Derek for 8 years, living in a mansion in the suburbs that was mortgaged for twice its value. The plan that had been forming in my mind suddenly became crystal clear. Wednesday evening, Emily returned from Chicago, glowing with happiness and expensive new clothes. She kissed my cheek like nothing had changed, chattering about the amazing spa treatments and incredible massages she'd enjoyed. "You look relaxed," I said, watching her unpack designer bags I knew we couldn't afford. "Oh, Sophie treated us. Her divorce settlement came through, so she's been very generous." Lie upon lie. I'd checked. Sophie's divorce had been finalized 2 years ago. Emily showered and changed into a new dress I'd never seen before. "I'm meeting the girls for dinner. We're planning Melissa's bachelorette party." Another lie. Melissa had been married for 3 years. "Have fun," I said. "I'll probably work late at the garage." But instead of going to the garage, I followed Emily. She drove to the downtown Marriott where Derek was waiting in the lobby. They embraced like reunited lovers, not like business associates or new acquaintances. I watched from my truck as they entered the hotel restaurant. Through the window, I could see them holding hands across the table, Derek feeding Emily bites of dessert, Emily laughing at everything he said. My phone buzzed. Emily texting from inside the restaurant. "Girls are being so silly tonight. Might be late." I drove home and waited. Emily returned after midnight, smelling like cologne I didn't recognize. She slipped into bed carefully, thinking I was asleep. "How was dinner?" I asked. She jumped. "Oh, you're awake. It was lovely. We went to that new Italian place." "Which one?" Marcello's. You wouldn't like it. Very fancy." There was no restaurant called Marcello's in our city. Thursday morning, I called in sick to my mechanic job and drove to Derek's office building. His real estate company occupied the top floor of a downtown high-rise, all glass and marble and expensive furniture that screamed success to people who didn't know better. I waited in the lobby until Derek emerged for lunch, then followed him to his usual restaurant. He sat alone at a corner table, making phone calls that looked increasingly agitated. "Margaret, I told you the payment will be late," I heard him say as I walked past his table. "The Morrison account is taking longer than expected to close." The Morrison account. He was lying to his wife about business deals to explain why he couldn't pay their bills. I sat at the bar where I could observe Derek's conversation. His face was flushed, his voice rising despite his attempts to keep the call private. "I don't care what your father says. The money will be there next week. No, I can't ask him for another loan. Margaret, trust me on this." Derek's marriage was in trouble. His finances were a disaster, and he was using Emily as his lifeline. But Emily didn't know any of this. She thought she was trading up from a grease monkey to a wealthy businessman. That afternoon, I made a decision that would change everything. I called Margaret Morrison. "Mrs. Morrison, my name is Jake Peterson. I think we need to talk about your husband." The silence on the other end stretched for nearly a minute. "I've been expecting this call," she finally said. "How long have you known?" "A few days. You?" 6 months. Derek thinks he's clever, but he's not as careful as he believes. Who is she this time?" "My wife, Emily Peterson." Another long pause. "I'm sorry," Margaret said. "Derek has a pattern. This isn't his first affair." "I know. I've seen the records." "What records?" I told her about Derek's previous relationships, the loans that were never repaid, the pattern of targeting married women with stable finances. "My God," Margaret whispered. "I knew about the affairs, but I didn't realize he's been stealing from them?" "Among other things. Mrs. Morrison, I think we can help each other." We agreed to meet the next day at a coffee shop across town, away from anyone who might know either of us. Margaret Morrison was nothing like I'd expected. She was older than Emily, probably mid-40s, with graying hair and tired eyes. But she was also clearly intelligent and, I sensed, much tougher than her husband realized. "Derek married me for my inheritance," she said without preamble. "My father owned a construction company. When he died, I inherited everything: the business, the properties, the investments. Derek was working for one of my father's competitors when we met. And now? Now the construction company is bankrupt, the properties are mortgaged beyond their value, and the investments are gone. Derek has been systematically destroying everything my father built." She showed me financial documents that painted a picture of deliberate sabotage. Derek had made business decisions that benefited his own real estate company while driving Margaret's construction business into the ground. "Why haven't you divorced him?" "I tried. Derek convinced the judge that I was having mental health issues, that I was paranoid and delusional. He had witnesses, friends of his who testified that I'd been acting erratically. Let me guess. Those friends included some of his previous girlfriends?" Margaret's eyes widened. "How did you know?" "Because he's doing the same thing to me. My wife's friends are already telling people I'm acting suspicious and jealous." We spent 2 hours comparing notes, and the pattern became undeniable. Derek was a predator who specialized in destroying marriages and stealing assets. He would seduce married women, isolate them from their husbands, then manipulate the divorce proceedings to maximize the settlement he could access. "But this time is different," Margaret said. "This time he's made a mistake." "What kind of mistake?" She smiled grimly. "He's still married to me, which means his relationship with your wife is adultery, and I have proof." Margaret had been gathering evidence for months: photos, bank records, hotel receipts, phone records. She had documentation of Derek's affair with Emily, his financial crimes, and his pattern of targeting married women. "I was planning to use this in my divorce," she said, "but I think we can do something better." "Such as?" "Destroy him completely." That weekend, Alex came home from college as I'd requested. My son had grown into a good man, tall like me, but with his mother's intelligence and his grandfather's business sense. He was majoring in accounting, planning to help me expand the garage into a full automotive service center after graduation. "Dad, what's going on?" Alex asked as we sat in my workshop Saturday morning. "Mom's been weird all week, and Sophie keeps calling me with strange questions." "What kind of questions?" "About your behavior, whether you've been drinking more, if you've ever been violent with Mom. It's like she's trying to get me to say something bad about you." I showed Alex the screenshots from Emily's group chat. I watched my son's face change as he read his mother's words, saw her mocking our family, planning to take half the business he was supposed to inherit. "This can't be real," Alex said finally. "I'm sorry, son. I wish it wasn't." Alex read through the messages again, his jaw tightening with each cruel comment. "She called you a failed boxer," he said. "Dad, you were never a failure. You built this business from nothing. You put me through college without any help from her family. Your mother's changed. Success went to her head." "No," Alex said firmly. "Success doesn't make you cruel. This is who she really is, and we just never saw it before." That afternoon, Alex confronted his mother directly. "Mom, are you having an affair?" Emily's face went white. "What? Alex, how could you ask me something like that?" "Because Dad showed me your text messages. I know about Derek Morrison." Emily looked at me with pure hatred. "You involved our son in this? Jake, how could you be so selfish?" "Selfish?" Alex stood up, his voice rising. "Mom, you're planning to divorce Dad and take half his business. You've been lying to both of us for months, and you're calling him selfish." "You don't understand the situation," Emily said. "Your father has become paranoid and controlling. Derek is just a friend who's been helping me deal with the stress." "By taking you to expensive hotels?" Emily's composure cracked. "I deserve better than this. I've worked hard to build my career, And I'm not going to spend the rest of my life in this dump, married to a man who peaked in high school. The mask was off. This was the real Emily, the woman who saw her family as obstacles to her ambitions. "Get out," Alex said quietly. "What?" "Get out of this house. You want a divorce? Fine. But don't you dare try to take Dad's business, and don't expect me to play happy family with you and your boyfriend." Emily looked at me for support, but I remained silent. This was Alex's choice to make. "You're both going to regret this," Emily said as she grabbed her purse. "Derek's lawyer says I'm entitled to half of everything Jake owns. The house, the business, even his retirement account." "Derek's lawyer is probably as big a fraud as Derek is," Alex replied. After Emily left, Alex and I sat in the kitchen, processing what had just happened. "Dad, what are you going to do?" I told him about my alliance with Margaret Morrison, about Derek's pattern of destroying marriages, about the evidence we'd gathered. "This isn't just about revenge," I explained. "Derek is a predator who's hurt a lot of people. If we don't stop him, he'll just move on to the next victim after he's done with your mother." Alex nodded slowly. "What do you need me to do?" "Nothing illegal, nothing that will hurt your future. But if you're willing to help..." "I'm willing." Sunday evening, Emily returned to pack more clothes. She was different now, colder, more calculating. The pretense of a loving wife was gone. "I'm staying with Sophie until I can find my own place," she announced. "What about Derek?" I asked. "I thought you'd be moving in with him." Emily hesitated. "Derek thinks it's better if we keep some distance until the divorce is finalized." Translation: Derek didn't want his wife to know Emily was more than a business associate. "Emily, do you know Derek is married?" She froze. "That's a lie." "Margaret Morrison. They've been married for 8 years. You're making that up to hurt me." I showed her the marriage certificate I'd obtained from public records. Emily stared at it for a long moment, her face cycling through confusion, denial, and finally rage. "He told me he was divorced," she whispered. "He tells all his girlfriends that. You're not special, Emily. You're just the latest mark in his con game." But instead of thanking me for opening her eyes, Emily turned her anger on me. "Even if that's true, it doesn't change anything between us. Our marriage has been over for years." "Then why are you trying to take half my business?" "Because I earned it. 22 years of being married to you, of pretending to be happy in this pathetic life, I earned every penny." She finished packing and left without another word. Monday morning, Margaret Morrison and I met with her lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia Wells who specialized in complex divorce cases. "What you're proposing is risky," Wells said after reviewing our evidence. "If Derek realizes what you're planning, he could destroy evidence or flee the state." "He won't run," Margaret said. "He's too arrogant. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else." Wells spread the documents across her conference table. "We have proof of adultery, financial fraud, and a pattern of predatory behavior. But timing is everything." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Margaret would file for divorce citing adultery, naming Emily as the co-respondent. Simultaneously, I would file for divorce citing the same adultery. Derek would be caught between 2 divorce proceedings, unable to manipulate either one without exposing himself in the other. But the real trap was deeper than that. Wells had discovered that Derek's real estate business was being investigated by the state attorney general's office for money laundering. The investigation had stalled due to lack of evidence, but the financial documents Margaret had gathered would provide exactly what prosecutors needed. "Once Derek is indicted," Wells explained, "any assets he's acquired through criminal activity can be seized. That includes money he's stolen from previous girlfriends." "What about Emily?" I asked. "Your wife is a victim of Derek's fraud, legally speaking. But she's also an active participant in adultery and conspiracy to defraud you of marital assets. She'll face consequences." Tuesday morning, both divorce petitions were filed simultaneously. By noon, Derek and Emily had been served with papers that laid out their affair in explicit detail. My phone rang within an hour. "Jake, what have you done?" Emily's voice was shrill with panic. "I filed for divorce, same as you were planning to do. You can't prove adultery. Hotel receipts, restaurant bills, photographs, text messages. Emily, I can prove everything." Derek says his lawyer will destroy you in court. Derek's lawyer is about to have bigger problems than our divorce. I hung up and waited. Wednesday morning, the state attorney general's office executed search warrants on Derek's business and personal residences. By evening, Derek Morrison was under arrest for money laundering, fraud, and racketeering. The local news covered the story extensively. Derek's mugshot appeared on every channel, alongside details of his alleged criminal enterprise and pattern of targeting married women. Emily called me that night, sobbing. "Jake, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what Derek was really doing. I thought he loved me." "He never loved you, Emily. He was using you. Can we work this out? Can we save our marriage?" For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered the group chat messages, the cruel laughter, the plan to destroy me financially. "It's too late for that. Please, I'll do anything." "Then sign the divorce papers and don't contest them. Take your personal belongings and leave everything else alone." "I can't survive without the business income." "You should have thought of that before you decided I was a failed boxer who smelled like motor oil." Thursday morning, Derek's arrest made the front page of the local newspaper. The article detailed his previous relationships with married women, the money he'd stolen, and the businesses he'd destroyed. Emily's friends began distancing themselves from her. Sophie, who had been covering for the affair, suddenly claimed she'd never approved of Emily's relationship with Derek. Melissa and the other women from the group chat acted like they barely knew Emily. Friday afternoon, Emily came to the garage one last time. "Jake, Derek's lawyer says the prosecutors might charge me as an accessory." "To what?" "The money laundering. Derek used my bank account for some transactions. He said it was for business, but you knew it was suspicious." Emily nodded miserably. "I thought it was just tax avoidance. Rich people do that, right?" "Rich people don't usually get arrested by the Attorney General's office." She looked around the garage, the business she'd mocked, the life she'd tried to escape. "I made a terrible mistake," she said. "Yes, you did. What's going to happen to me?" "I don't know, Emily. That depends on what deals you're willing to make with prosecutors." She started to cry again, but I felt no sympathy. Emily had made her choices with full knowledge of what she was doing. The consequences were hers to face. 2 weeks later, Derek Morrison pled guilty to multiple felonies in exchange for a reduced sentence. As part of his plea agreement, he provided evidence against several co-conspirators, including detailed records of money he'd laundered through accounts belonging to his girlfriends. Emily was charged with conspiracy and money laundering. Her lawyer negotiated a plea deal that would keep her out of prison in exchange for full cooperation and restitution of the stolen funds. The problem was, Emily didn't have the money to pay restitution. Derek had spent it as quickly as he'd stolen it, funding his lifestyle and paying debts to dangerous creditors. Emily's lawyer called me with a proposal. Mrs. Peterson is willing to sign over her interest in all marital assets in exchange for your agreement not to pursue additional damages. What additional damages? Alienation of affection, intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud. You could sue her personally for everything she's done. I considered the offer. Emily would walk away with nothing, no share of the business, no claim to the house, no alimony. She would have to rebuild her life from scratch with a criminal record and no money. "I accept," I said. The divorce was finalized on a rainy Thursday morning in October. Emily sat at the defendant's table looking like a ghost of her former self. Her expensive clothes were gone, replaced by a cheap suit from a discount store. Her hair was unkempt, her makeup smeared from crying. When the judge asked if she understood the terms of the agreement, Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, Your Honor." "And you agree to relinquish all claims to marital property?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Then this court grants the petitioner's request for divorce. The marriage between Jake Peterson and Emily Peterson is hereby dissolved." Outside the courthouse, Emily tried to approach me one last time. "Jake, I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but—" "You're right," I said. "You don't deserve forgiveness. What am I supposed to do now? I have nothing. You have exactly what you gave me, nothing. The difference is, I built something from nothing once before. You'll have to figure out if you can do the same." Emily walked away alone, carrying a single suitcase that contained everything she owned. Alex was waiting for me at the garage when I returned. "How do you feel, Dad?" "Tired," I said honestly. "But free." "What about Mom?" "Your mother made her choices. Now she has to live with them." Alex nodded. "Derek got 15 years, right?" 15 years minimum. He'll be an old man when he gets out." "Good." We worked together in comfortable silence, father and son rebuilding what others had tried to destroy. 6 months later, I received a letter from Margaret Morrison. Her divorce from Derek had been finalized, and she'd managed to recover most of her father's assets through the criminal restitution process. "I wanted to thank you," she wrote. "Without your help, Derek would have destroyed everything and moved on to his next victim. You saved me, and probably saved other women from going through what we experienced." I also heard occasional updates about Emily through mutual acquaintances. She was working as a secretary again, living in a studio apartment across town. Her advertising career was over. No agency would hire someone with a criminal record for financial crimes. Derek's other victims had filed a class action lawsuit against his estate, trying to recover money he'd stolen over the years. Emily was named as a defendant in that lawsuit as well, but I tried not to think about Emily anymore. She was part of my past, a chapter that had ended badly but was finally closed. The garage was busier than ever. Word had gotten around about my situation, and people seemed to respect how I'd handled it. My customer base grew, and Alex had decided to graduate early so he could help expand the business. "Dad," Alex said one evening as we were closing up shop, "do you ever regret how things turned out?" I looked around the garage, the business I'd built with my own hands, the legacy I was leaving to my son, the life I'd fought to protect. "No," I said. "I don't regret defending what was mine." On a cold December morning, exactly 1 year after I'd first discovered Emily's betrayal, I was working under the hood of a customer's car when my phone buzzed with a text message. It wasn't from a blocked number this time. It was from Emily. "Jake, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I wanted you to know that I understand now what I threw away. You were a good husband, and I was too stupid and selfish to appreciate what we had. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say, I'm sorry." I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. I went back to work, focused on the engine in front of me, building something reliable and strong that would serve its owner well for years to come. Outside, snow began to fall, covering the city in a clean white blanket that made everything look new and full of possibility. Alex arrived for his shift, bringing coffee and the easy conversation of a son who respected his father and a partner who shared the same vision for the future. "Ready for another day, Dad?" "Always," I said. And for the first time in years, I truly meant it.